Episode 29, Forbidden Swimming Holes. There were very few walkable places to swim in our neighborhood. When I was very young, before the Charles River became a polluted and putrid human waste ditch, we swam at Magazine Beach just 2 blocks away. Later, the more adventurous of us dove off the bridges over the Charles, as I have recalled in another story. Also, there was a public swimming pool built at the Magazine Beach site. My sisters used that pool regularly during the hot weather months. There were much better places to swim, such as the Atlantic Ocean beaches like Revere Beach, Carson Beach near City Point, and both of which could be reached by the MTA. The classiest beach, Nantasket, could only be reached by car or ferry from Rose Wharf on Atlantic Avenue. Boston had Revere Beach and Nantasket Beach, but Nantasket Beach had great amusement parks with Ferris wheels, merry-go-rounds, games of chance, and roller coasters. There were also more dangerous and therefore more exciting places to swim, like the Quincy Quarries and the Burlington Sand Pits. Those spots could only be reached by car, so other than a few trips with Gary to the Quincy Quarries, those swimming holes had to wait until I got older. The Quincy Quarries, located where else but in Quincy, were verboten, off limits, and fenced in. No one was supposed to swim there. They were very dangerous, but the most fun ever. Those formerly working granite quarries were closed long before my time. They had filled up with cold, clear spring water. A mythology about the place had built up that included stories about the mob getting rid of inconvenient dead bodies there. Also, supposedly, the main quarry was bottomless because no one was ever able to swim to the bottom. Recent Googling the Quincy Quarries provided me with the information that the depth of the quarries was probably 200 feet. The quarries were built on high ground, and the quarry's mechanical stone cuts in the rock above the water provided diving cliffs of various heights. Recently, I saw the quarries in a TV movie. It looked the same as I remembered it, but with more ugly graffiti. Dennis Lehane, Dorchester's best-selling novelist, wrote a book, Gone, Baby, Gone, that was made into that movie by the same name. One scene shows the Quincy Quarries by night as a crime scene. Swimming there required barefoot climbing up almost sheer rock walls to get back to the diving cliffs after our dives. The highest and most dangerous diving peaks were set back, so the diver had to run and dive far out to clear the rocks below, thereby not getting killed. There were often drowning deaths and diving accidents with bad injuries and deaths. Tarzan movies were popular at that time. My friends and I would pretend we were Tarzan, Cheetah, or Boy when we dove in. I loved it. Sometimes the cops would come and drive everyone out. There are still regular newspaper stories about stolen cars and bodies being found in the Quincy Quarries. The Burlington Sand Pits were another similar phenomenon. Previously, there was a huge sand and gravel operation there. Shoveling equipment and cranes would dig out tremendous amounts of sand and gravel for building contractors, engineering firms, and concrete manufacturers. The deep holes left from that digging filled with spring water and provided a swimming hole similar to the Quincy Quarries, but less dangerous for youngsters. The sand pits were fenced off also, but that stopped no one. Before Route 128, now called I-95, was built as a loop around Boston, we would drive out there through Arlington on the Middlesex Turnpike. Once, when I was about 17, I was driving a 1951 Ford Woody station wagon that Gary left in my hands after joining the Army. George Daniels and I were trying to catch up to Bernie Salway, who was driving a 1951 Studebaker, full of my juvenile delinquent friends, on the way to the sand pits. We were speeding up the Middlesex Turnpike, and we finally caught up with Salway's Studebaker when I stupidly tried to pass their car. Someone sitting in the middle of the front seat grabbed the steering wheel away from Salway and turned it all the way to the left, towards us, as we went by. Both cars were traveling about 70 miles an hour. The front of my Ford hit the side of the Studebaker and sent the Studebaker up in the air and tumbling and flipping over onto its roof and then sliding 25 feet onto a roadside shoulder. We stopped and ran back to help. George's reaction was different than mine. I thought we killed everyone and wanted to see if we could help if anyone had survived. George thought otherwise. The Studebaker was caved in and the door windows were shattered. There was some moaning and bitching coming from the juvenile delinquent's stuffed interior. I looked in and saw upside-down Salway and Okie O'Connell bleeding from head injuries in the front seat. George pushed me aside, reached in, and grabbed Okie. He dragged him out across Salway partway through the window and started punching him and calling him an asshole for turning the wheel as he did. He had seen Okie turn the steering wheel. George was unconcerned other than to inflict a little punishment to the culprit that caused the accident. It is still difficult to believe, but no one was killed, and a few scratches and cuts were the only injury. My Ford had a slight dent, but Salway's car was wrecked. As far as I know, no one got in trouble for that nearly fatal accident on the way to a wonderful swimming hole. My observation, danger increases fun for teenage boys. Thank you for viewing or listening to my podcast episode. I really appreciate it. If you liked it, and if you so choose, I ask you to send a good review and perhaps refer friends who might be interested in this podcast series. Again, my thanks.